US foreign policy after World War II is a history of bloody, repressive, and successful interventions. US leaders profess a dedication to democracy, yet over the last 50 years, US national security state has been a key force in overthrowing reformist democratic governments in Guatemala, Guyana, the Dominican Republic, Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, Syria, Indonesia under Sukarno, Greece twice, Argentina twice, Haiti twice, Haiti 3 times if you count a couple months ago, Bolivia, and other countries, and replaced them in each instance with pro-capitalist military regimes that opened their resources, their markets, and their cheap labor to US corporate investors on terms completely favorable to the investors, who integrated themselves into the free market global system. US leaders having actively pursued covert actions or proxy mercenary wars against popular revolutionary governments in Cuba, Angola, Mozambique, Ethiopia, Portugal, South Yemen, Nicaragua, Cambodia, East Timor, Western Sahara, Iraq, and elsewhere. Iraq, now there's a story that's never told, never mentioned. All the talk on Iraq, and never mentioned is the fact that the Iraqis, who the present leadership presumes needs education in democracy, the Iraqis had a wide-based coalition democratic revolution back in 1968, wasn't it, or so, and took over and had a wonderful government, nationalized the oil industry, kicked out the English oil companies, kicked out the American oil companies. And it was the US and the CIA that backed the Ba'athist Party, the conservative wing of the Ba'athist Party, and Saddam Hussein, who went in there and they overthrew and they murdered and they tortured and they killed those democratic forces. That's never mentioned. That Saddam Hussein was Washington's poster boy for years, during the years when he was doing his worst and ruthless torture and murder and killings, brutal, horrible things he was doing. And he was being paid, advised, and supported by the CIA and the US national security state. That's never mentioned. That's been dropped down the memory hole. And it's only afterwards when he started committing economic nationalism that they started not liking him. When he started asking for a better break on the oil quotas, that's when they decided they really didn't need him. When he nationalized the whole economy and started health and education programs in limited ways and all that, that's when Saddam Hussein suddenly became a dictator. US rulers have actively destabilized and moved against reformist governments in Egypt, Lebanon, Peru, Iran under Mossadegh, Syria, Zaire under Patrice Lumumba, Jamaica under Michael Manley, Venezuela under Hugo Chavez, the Fiji Islands, Afghanistan before the Soviets ever went into the country. Pakistani and US intelligence were already in there destabilizing the military that was in power because it was a left reformist military. Since World War II, US direct military invasion with US forces invading or launching aerial attacks, bombings, or both against Vietnam, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, North Korea, Laos, Cambodia, Yugoslavia, Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, Libya, Iraq twice, Somalia. Now there's no rogue state. There's no axis of evil. There's no communist country that has a record of aggression like the one I just read off. And this is an incomplete listing I've given you here. The cost, 10,000 killed in Somalia. Hundreds of thousands have been killed in Iraq since the first Gulf War because of direct bombings and sanctions. I was in Iraq in November 2000. I was there just for the week and a half I was there. This was before, there was no war at that time. A school was hit by US planes, and 4 students were badly maimed and 2 teachers were killed, just in that 1 week. And this went on. This was going on, to say the war began in March 2003, it never had really stopped. The bombings had been going on all through that decade, under Clinton also. 3 million people killed in Vietnam, 200,000 still missing, 500,000 in Laos, 1 million in Indonesia in the US-sponsored coup against Sukarno, 300,000 killed in East Timor by that deranged murder machine known as the Indonesian army, paid, equipped, advised, trained, supplied by the United States. 80,000 killed in El Salvador. Guatemala, finally acknowledged in the New York Times, 205,000 killed by the death squads and extermination programs by Rios Monk, General Monte, who wiped out 600 Mayan villages